Azizi is a PhD candidate in history and Middle Eastern studies at New York University. He joins us now from New York. Thank you for joining us on the program. The strikes affected half of Saudi Aramco's total output. What impact could we see this have on oil production globally? Could we see an increase in prices?
Thanks for having me. I don't think, it is true that it has affected the daily output more than half, as you said, but as you know, that's the daily production. Saudi Arabia has already shown since we've heard the attacks that it has enough reserves. So I don't think you'll see significant effect on the markets. From what we see, the fires have been kind of contained, and even though there's a bit of a media war, some say that the stabilization towers have come down and they need to be imported from the US or things like that have been said on pro-Houthi media. But long story short, I don't think you will see a very significant effect on the oil prices.
Mm-hmm. So what does this mean for Saudi Arabia and also for the rest of the world that the kingdom's oil facilities are so vulnerable?
Yeah, this is a very good point. The last time that these facilities were attacked, there was an attempt to attack them was 2006, and Al Qaeda tried to send suicide bombers, and it was so difficult, and I think it was foiled. The experience now shows, based on estimates, the drones used for the attack cost less than $15,000 to build. So it's a new world. And every day we see technological advances means this technology has become cheaper, as we've seen in our own lives, but it means that also relatively poor formations like the Houthis are able to attack oil installments of a country that has the third biggest military budget in the world. So I think they show that there's a new game, and Saudi Arabia would need much more serious defensive measures if it's going to protect itself and its key installations. Houthis have always shown a willingness to attack. And actually, if you listen to the Houthi commentators now, they speak of 300 targets inside Saudi Arabia that has been chosen for attacks. And Saudis need to put up their defenses if they're not going to be vulnerable in key installments like this.
Mm-hmm. So we now have seen the U.S. accuse Iran of involvement in these attacks. How likely is it that Iran is actually behind the attacks, and how is this going to affect relations between the two countries, which, to put it mildly, are already strained?
Look, the relations are strained, but the real story here is that with the expulsion of John Bolton last week and with the advent of the UN General Assembly, which soon in New York, all the world leaders, including Trump and Rouhani, will be here. There was a lot of hope that there might be a meeting. The French President Emmanuel Macron has been on phone with Rouhani a lot, so there was a lot of hopes. So I think it's not too conspiratorial to think the attack might actually have something to do with those who are not happy, frankly, to see a U.S.-Iran reconciliation. This is U.S.-Iran reconciliation has always had a lot of enemies in the U.S., in the region, and in Iran itself. Now, is Iran behind the attacks? Well, Houthis have always been backed by Iran. If you look at the conservative media in Iran, hardline pro-government media, they're all boasting about the attack. It's the top news there. But whether the Iranian government was behind the attack, I don't think that's likely. But it is possible that the elements in the IRGC and the famed Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Quds force of the IRGC, would have wanted something like this. We don't really know. But of course, if Iran wants to distance itself from the attack, it's very easy. It can condemn it. It's a attack on oil installments. There's a lot of reasons, even if you politically back the Houthis, to condemn this attack. But of course, Iran is not going to do it because it accepts the Houthi line that this is a just retaliation for the Saudi war in Yemen.
All right, we'll leave it there. Arash Azizi joining us from New York. Thank you so much.